Hey guys, Josiah here with Aesthetyx Fitness. In today's video, I'm going to tell you how to lean bulk. Okay, so most people who have been training for any given amount of time are familiar with the concept of bulking and cutting, basically meaning that in your off season when you don't need to be lean and shredded, you're basically putting on extra muscle and extra fat by eating more calories, and therefore you're going to bulk up. And then when summer starts coming around again, you're going to cut, and that means you're going to decrease your calories, lose a lot of your body fat, and reveal the muscle that you've built up over the winter or your off season. Now, with the classic system of bulking and cutting, it's basically inevitable that when you put on muscle, you're also going to be putting on a lot of fat with that. So you're going to actually look a lot more bloated, a lot less defined, and actually a lot worse, even though you technically have more muscle. And it's only when you actually start to cut and shred down and lose that outer layer of fat that you reveal the muscle underneath and see the progress that you've made. However, it certainly doesn't have to be that way. There's a method of bulking called lean bulking, which is actually incredibly simple, helps you to put on muscle without putting on a lot of excess fat. And this is what I've been doing for about the last 7 months. I've put on 11 pounds and only about 2 to maybe 3 pounds of that are fat. So the rest is going to be muscle that I get to keep after I cut down with a much shorter cutting window than I would have to use otherwise if I were standard classic dirty bulking. But before I get started telling you how to lean bulk, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below so that every time I come out with a new video, you guys get notified. And of course, if you feel like it, drop a like down below because it really helps me out. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get started. Okay, so the secret to lean bulking is actually very, very simple. Just don't eat as many calories as people who are dirty bulking do. That's basically it. Okay, so it's a little more complicated than that, but you'll see a lot of people pitch this idea that in order to bulk, in order to add muscle, you need to be eating like 5, 6, 7,000 calories a day. And in that case, no matter how hard you're training, unless you're like an Olympic swimmer and are actually burning that many calories per day, you're going to be like 3,000 to 4,000 over your calorie intake requirements each day. And that's going to be the sure way to pack on a lot of fat very quickly, because 1 pound of body fat is approximately equal to 3,500 calories. So if you're eating 3,000 calories over your daily requirements each day, think of the amount of fat you're going to be putting on. And the reason for this is no matter how hard you're training, your body can only use so many calories each day to build muscle. And that number is going to be right around 200 to 300 per day. So that means that if you're eating 3,000 calories more than your daily caloric requirements, you might put 200 to 300 calories worth of that towards building muscle, but the other 2,700 calories of that are going straight into being stored as fat. And that ratio of 200 to 300 to 2,700 is not a very good ratio when your goal is to put on as much muscle as possible with as little fat as possible and stay lean or lean-ish year-round. Now, there are only 2 ways around this. One, if you're a person that takes steroids, you won't have this problem because your body will be able to use a much higher percentage of those calories for building muscle. But if you're a natural lifter, that does limit your options down to the second one, which is lean bulking, where basically you are going to only be consuming 300 to 400 calories over your daily caloric requirements in order to make sure that almost all of the calories you're consuming are going towards building muscle and no additional calories are just kind of hanging around and being stored as fat. So the way you calculate this is take your daily caloric requirements, I've gone over that in other videos on how to do that, and then you're just going to add 300 to 400 calories to that. And that's basically going to be determined by your genetics. If you're a person who naturally puts on a lot of body fat very easily and has a hard time losing it, you're going to want to dial that down a little bit, so probably 200 to 300 calories over your normal daily caloric requirements. However, if you're a person who has a hard time putting on mass of any kind, you've got a six-pack all the time, but you have like no body fat and a hard time adding muscle mass, you're definitely going to want to bump that number up to 400 to 500 calories above your daily requirements so that your body has enough calories to combat your fast metabolism and still use some of those calories to build muscle. And as far as classic lean bulking goes, that's about it. Usually people on their off days of not training are going to decrease those calories by about 100 calories. Since you do burn more calories on days that you are training, therefore you need a slightly higher number, and then when you're not training, slightly less. It's a little way to kind of fine tune it and dial it in a little more if you want to get really exact with it. And now I move on to the more bro science-y part of the video, where I'm just going to tell you something that I personally have done in the past that I've seen good results with. I don't necessarily have a lot of science to back it up, so I'm using that disclaimer right here in order to tell you that what I'm about to say is something that I am just basing off my own anecdotal evidence. And that is selective intermittent fasting. Basically, I tend to train in the evening. So let's say I train Monday night, Wednesday night, and Friday night. If it's a day that I'm going to train, I will intermittent fast that day until about noon. And that way I start consuming my calories closer to the time in which I'm actually going to be training, burning those calories, and needing that extra nutrients. And then I'm going to try to backload my calories into the end of the day after I've trained and around that time so that I have a lot of calories, a lot of protein, a lot of carbohydrates in my body as I'm going to bed and resting. And then the next morning, I will immediately start eating from the time I get up, all the way till about 6 o'clock, at which point I start fasting again, because at that point it's been about 24 hours since I worked out, and my body has used up most of those calories and most of that nutrients that it needs to build muscle, and then I'm going to fast from 6 p.m. until about noon the next day, which is going to be another training day, and then I start eating at noon until the time I work out, backload my calories till after I work out. And my thought process behind this is that since intermittent fasting doesn't actually change the overall number of calories you're consuming each day, it shouldn't throw off my diet or affect how much muscle my body is able to build. However, it does help shift the overall balance of when I'm consuming calories to be more around the time that I'm training, so that I make sure that my body has nutrients when it needs it and for 24 hours solid after I'm done working out. And my last little tip I'll give you in regards to lean bulking is be careful where your calories are coming from. Make sure you are consuming an adequate amount of whole foods and of foods that are going to help boost your body's functionality, not just getting your carbohydrates and fats from things like candy bars and sweets and ice cream, because that's not going to help you build muscle, as well as things like rice, sweet potatoes, and other higher quality carbohydrate sources. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, to leave a like down below, and of course comment down below letting me know what you think about lean bulking, and subscribe to this channel because I have new content coming out every Monday and Friday to help you train smarter and look better.